beautiful homemakers. I am starting pamphlet 3 of the original 1922 Fascinating Womanhood pamphlets. Chapter 5, The Real Charm and How to Acquire It. At the outset of the previous chapter, we explained that perfect physical health was impossible without a corresponding mental health. That consummate soundness and vigor physically was only the reward of those who were consummately sane and buoyant mentally. How are you going to attain this wholesome state of mind? The simplest way, and probably the only way, is to cast aside every unwholesome thought as it arises, and substitute for it a cheerful, tender, or holy one. Refuse to let your mind dwell on unpleasant or bitter ideas. If this is difficult, get a hobby, or 2 or 3, which will demand so much of your attention that you will not have time to think about the gloomy things of life. Get rid of the unhealthy ideas by crowding them out. The hobbies, of course, should accomplish some kindly or friendly purpose, or be of a joyful or benevolent nature, so that when your mind is occupied with your hobbies, you will automatically be thinking kindly, friendly, joyful, and hopeful thoughts. These are the character builders, the electric conceptions which, when combined with physical vigor, make a personality magnetic. 2 Corinthians 10:5 teaches us to take every thought captive and make it obedient unto Christ. The books you read, the websites you visit, the TV shows you watch, the magazines you read, the social media posts you see, the YouTube videos you watch, they all will affect how you speak and how you treat others, and it'll affect how you think. Even some really bad commercials can get into your brain and cause you to think or say things that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. There are bad characters on TV. The characters in books can either be uplifting or demeaning. And I know that I internalize what I read, so therefore I know that you do too. That's why I'm always recommending Grace Livingston Hill books, because the characters in her books make you want to be a better person. They're very uplifting, they're motivating, and they just make you want to do better in life, especially your home life. Many people think that it is only worry and fear that have a harmful effect upon the character and the health. But according to physicians, all other disagreeable or irritating mental images or sentiments have an equally disastrous effect. And there are so many of them that even with the best intentions and the most determined efforts, you will find it difficult to escape their malicious influence. Unwholesomeness can surprise you in 1,000 disguises. Some of the most common of the forms it assumes are anger, envy, jealousy, cynicism, malice, spite, revenge, hate, sullenness, pessimism, impatience, cruelty, fury, resentment, and suspicion. Now, as soon as one of these sentiments centers in your brain, its irritating influence is carried by the nerves to every organ in your system. The beat of your heart, the digestive fluids of your stomach, the functioning of your kidneys, liver, lungs, the important flow of juices from numerous glands, even the flow of saliva are adversely affected. This interference with the smooth running of the human machine causes actual physical injury. And the more often it is repeated, the more permanent the injury becomes. If continued, the damage to the system may become irreparable. Everyone knows that when he is depressed mentally, he grows depressed physically. Everyone does not realize, however, that the physical depression sometimes remains permanently after the mental depression has vanished. Let us not then, by indulgence in ugly thoughts, invite this unwelcome and long-remaining visitor. Who you surround yourself with matters. Like I talked about the social media and dropping friends or people in your life that treat their husbands or children or other people badly, that are constantly sarcastic, that will rub off on you. You will pick up their patterns. When good friends divorce, the couples that are nearest these friends, they'll often start to have marriage problems as well, or even divorce themselves. That has been well documented. The same with cheaters. If you have a friend that's cheating, it's more likely for you to let down your barriers. If you watch soap operas, I have actually seen marriages ruined by women who were addicted to soap operas, and then they developed a loose lifestyle. They had everything, but it wasn't exciting enough for them. People that take drugs, they influence you, or if they drink alcohol all the time, they are very likely to keep giving you a glass of wine. Even if you refuse it, one day you'll probably pick it up. Bad behavior that you're surrounded by doesn't bring people up. It is so much easier to pull people down. That's why you have to be very careful with what you surround yourself with. Let me repeat the last sentence of the prior paragraph. Let us not then, by indulgence in ugly thoughts, invite this unwelcome and long-remaining visitor. How to build a winning mental attitude. Buoyant and kindly thoughts have exactly the opposite effect. These also assume 1,000 disguises, some of the most frequent being optimism, faith, fondness, love, kindness, cheerfulness, joy, contentment, sympathy, playfulness, devotion, and enthusiasm. Similarly, when one of these sentiments centers in your brain, the nerves carry its influence throughout your system. But this influence, instead of being injurious, is invigorating. Instead of feeling depressed, you feel strengthened, warmed, and stimulated. And you are. Every nerve and every organ in your body is benefited. But the physical benefit is by no means the only benefit of healthy thinking, as will be seen upon a reconsideration of our analysis of feminine charm in Chapter 3. Amelia and Déruchette were certainly not creatures of hate, gloom, and suspicion. Their sentiments were of the clean and wholesome kind. They shed joy around, radiated happiness. They were vivacious, playful, the very spirits of grace and harmony. They were possessed with the most honest good humor, and had kindly, smiling, tender, and generous hearts. They could not possibly have been such winsome adorables had not their thoughts been as clean and wholesome as their persons. They could not have attracted in the least had they been irritable, resentful, envious, spiteful, sullen, or unkind. If your thoughts are unhealthy, you will be a contradiction and a fraud if you endeavor to act the part of Amelia and Déruchette. The insincerity will be too manifest to be disguised. Without healthy thinking, therefore, you cannot hope to have a lovable personality. And that's what happened with Clara Bow. She could act it on the screen, but she could not keep up the disguise in person. The characteristics I just read about optimism, faith, fondness, love, kindness, cheerfulness, joy, contentment, sympathy, playfulness, devotion, and enthusiasm. This used to be the norm for everyone, for young girls, teens, young women, and women in general. But today, it only seems to exist in the loving, functional families. I do see it often in young Christian girls and women, but not in the general world or on YouTube videos or on television or in the magazines. But you can have it too if you cultivate it. I really like the words the author used. Winsome adorables. That's how we need to be thinking of ourselves. The next section is when you are most bewitching. Happiness in itself has a fascination that cannot be overestimated. Recall to yourself some supremely happy moment in your life. The time you received that hat you so eagerly wanted, or the dress, or the wristwatch, or the necklace, or the time Dad brought home the chummy roadster, or the visiting celebrity singled you out, or the catch of the season asked you to the year's biggest social event, or any other occasion when you were absolutely and wholeheartedly delighted. At that time, your eyes sparkled and danced. Your face was eager, animated, and joyous. Your voice was vibrant with rapture and happiness. And that was the moment when you were your most attractive. Didn't Mother stop her sewing? Didn't Dad look up from his paper? Didn't everyone seek to share your gladness by asking questions and watching your antics? Even your little brother, if you have one, wound up no doubt by giving a vivid and hilarious imitation of Sis in her new-found joy. So bewitching were you for a time that everyone present simply had to drop what he was doing and pay attention to you. Your fascination actually amounted to sorcery. Had any young man been present, he too would have been enthralled, until perhaps your later conduct had dissipated the illusion. Gladness and happiness, therefore, may be considered indispensable to genuine charm, adding to your allurements. But you must not imagine that the rather boisterous joy just described is the only kind that will contribute to your attractiveness. There are finer and nobler joys than mere exultation over a new possession. There are the joys of work, of play, and even of contest, when entered upon in good sportsmanship. There are the joys of ministering to a loved one, of doing something to make an unfortunate one happy, of furthering a good cause. There are the joys of accomplishment, of victory over difficulty, of triumph over evil in whatever form. Such exquisite gladnesses are what build refinement of character. Their effect in adding to your charm, though not so striking and so immediate as that of the more vivid joys, is more enduring and far-reaching. The fond softness and gentleness of your eyes, the caressing warmth of your voice, the lovely tenderness of your face, instead of being eradicated with the passing of an ephemeral emotion, will linger and ultimately become permanent additions to your allurements. In a class I once took, the woman demonstrated how she perpetually keeps her face in a pleasant expression, with a little smile that is always ready to grow bigger. She also demonstrated how she keeps her eyes open, not too wide like in surprise, but wide as in wonder. She cultivates pleasantness. And then she showed us what her face would look like if she didn't do this, and the difference was so shocking that everyone gasped. Then she showed us a frown, and she looked like a witch. It was astonishing. Then back to the pleasant expression, and she looked lovely. She may have been an extreme example, but I've met many who should heed her advice. I took to heart what she said, and though I am not model beautiful, I've always received plenty of positive attention, and I think that ready smile has a lot to do with it. Not too long ago, I was entering glass doors at a department store, and I had put my hand on the door and was beginning to open it when a young man in his 20s said, "No, no, come here, come to my door." And he opened it wide and smiled, and there was no reason for him to do that. It wasn't raining. I didn't have any packages. I didn't have a small child with me. But I think it was the fact that I was in a dress and that I had a ready smile on my face. So I thanked him and went through. In the next video, we will learn about why physical beauty fails. See you then. Bye.